All right, you were tuned into Bare Knuckle Bowker. You know who this lad is. He has a big fight coming up at that BKFC Mohegan Sun card. A little bit of a change in the opposition, which we'll talk about as we get deeper into the chat, but excited to see this individual headline on March 28th and does so against Haze Wilson. Great having Parker Porter back on Bare Knuckle Bowker today. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me on. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I mentioned in the intro, there's a bit of a switch in opposition here with Wilson replacing ranked BKFC contender Josh Watson. And obviously, he withdrew from this bout. Like, what are your thoughts on just that whole situation and your new opponent here?
It's a shame that Josh and I were able to meet each other in the ring. I had some situations that came up that he can, like had to unfortunately, decline. I hope everything gets squared away for him. We got to meet and hang out a little bit when we both fought on the Mohegan card back in June last year. And he's a great guy, man. And we were joking around, hanging out afterwards, talking about how you're a really nice guy. It's going to be a really sad situation when we got to beat the crap out of each other in front of him. But that being said, with the opponent change to Haze Wilson, I'm really looking forward. I think this is a little bit of a favorable matchup for me. He's tough as nails. He's got some experience with everything. He's only got the one fight with the BKFC against Anthony Garrett. He's tough, man. He's game, and I'm expecting to have a fight on my hands. So I've been preparing for everything.
Yeah, and I guess the term they would usually use is like MMA math. I guess in this case it would be bare knuckle math, but I'm not getting the sense that just by virtue of, you beating Anthony Garrett and then Hayes Wilson losing to him that you're doing some kind of, bare knuckle math to use that kind of phrasing. Like it seems like you're very much yeah, just taking it in the context that's kind of separate from that, or at least that's the vibe I'm getting.
Yeah, absolutely. That's you always want to try at this day and age, do as much homework on the guy as you can, try to watch as many things, see how they've changed their game from one fight to the next. Because anybody that's worth their weight is going to be trying to fix things, especially if they're coming off of a loss. And that being said, too, coming off of a loss usually makes people really hungry to get back in that win column. So I'm expecting him to be aggressive and coming out to try and prove something. He's got a good opportunity against somebody like myself, being a ranked opponent in the heavyweight division. If he's bringing everything to his game can offer, then he's going to have a big opportunity to make a name for himself. But I'm going to make sure that I do everything that I can do to make sure he's not making his name off of me.
Yeah, and you're doing quite a lot for that BKFC Mohegan Sun residency. Like it seems like you're very much interwoven in all of that. So yeah, just cool to see that, I guess, next chapter unfurling in that sort of story. It would strike me as something that you would find cool that you're such a prominent fixture within that residency run and everything.
Yeah, it feels really good. I've fought at Mohegan. This will be my ninth fight at Mohegan Sun. So it really is like home to me. But more importantly, with the BKFC giving me so many opportunities to fight there and headline several events now, I really am doing everything that I can to try and build the culture and make people more aware in the entire New England region about BKFC and about how everything that we have to offer in terms of entertainment. Like it's where you want to be. Get out here in New England and support your guys, and who knows, start training yourself. Maybe you'll be the next one in there.
Yeah, I mean, that fight that you had last time out certainly does a lot to inspire new fans to get interested or people to even pick it up and become fighters. Just a very inspiring showcase there, surviving multiple knockdowns and, an emphatic comeback KO in your own right. Like just the totality of the whole story in that fight. Like, what were your main takeaways from that one? It seems like you really showed your mettle and everything in a tough situation.
Yeah, I think that was the biggest thing that I got to put on display was my ability to persevere. I'm a tough SOB, as a lot of guys from the New England area are, and I got to put that on full display um, and really send a good message to everybody that's going to be fighting me, as well as people that might draw inspiration from the fact no matter how many times you get knocked down, if you get back up and keep going and you refuse to quit, you can get that win, whether it's in life or in the ring. So that it just I'm proud of that part of being able to put that message on display. But then also, I'm more critical of myself in the sense of I didn't get to display my best and most fullest skill set because I allowed myself to get drawn into a brawl, into a little bit of a pissing contest, where it's who's going to be the tougher guy. And thankfully, I was the tougher guy, but I'm not super proud of my performance in the sense of the skills that I displayed.
Well, it's interesting because that might behoove you in this fight. 'Cause you mentioned the dynamic with Wilson and how there's that certain fervor with wanting to like return back in a particular way after a loss. So you would think he would be maybe even trying to force that firefight himself. But if you have that piece there, I would think that would behoove the composure dynamic. So yeah, I mean, a very interesting matchup in that kind of piece as well.
100%. I also feel with that last fight, it essentially gave me a significant amount of condensed experience that a lot of you guys don't get the opportunity to have. I feel like the experience and the knowledge that I gained from that one fight was probably the equivalent of what some of these guys achieve over 3 or even 4 fights. But it was all just kind of smashed into a single situation, the accelerated learning, if you will.
No, for sure. And you've had quite a, quick path in your bare knuckle journey in general. I mean, it's kind of crazy to see, but someone that also fits within that too, in a sense, is Andrei Arlovski, just in the sense of becoming champion within 2 fights. And I saw you were at the KnuckleMania VI card in Philadelphia, where Arlovski unseated Ben Rothwell. Since you're in such close proximity to that title shot, I figured I'd get your thoughts on Arlovski becoming BKFC heavyweight champ there.
I think he was absolutely dominant. He's the best we've seen him look in a long time. I think he looked phenomenally better than he did in his debut fight against Copeland. I think also Ben didn't look as good as he's looked in the past. So I think that was obviously to Arlovski's advantage. But yeah, he looked really good. He looked sharp. He looked really explosive and fast. And you can expect somebody like him with the experience that he has, as well as the resources that he has, to really excel no matter what he decides to do, whether it's BKFC or goes back to MMA or whatever it may be. The dude's got a ridiculous amount of knowledge and experience and accomplishments under his belt. And I just hope that I get the chance to fight him because it would be an honor, one, and two. I want the belt regardless of who has it, but it would be a dream fight of mine to be able to go fight him, for the belt. So if he ends up defending it against somebody else prior to me getting there, I hope he holds on to it.
Yeah, like just in the sense of it's not even so much about the belt with the Arlovski situation, just would be cool to test skills with him at some point in general.
Yeah, 100%. We were almost crossed paths once or twice while I was under contract with UFC before he retired from the UFC as well. So the fact that he's now in the BKFC, he's now the champ, and I've got my sights set on getting the belt. It's almost like predestined for us to cross paths, and I can't wait for that to be for a title fight.
It's just very exciting times for sure. I mean, just a great BKFC heavyweight division overall. Like it was cool to also see Mick Terrill somewhat recently cement himself as a champion in the UK side of things more so, and obviously a former world champion. So yeah, always a healthy time for the BKFC heavyweight ranks, it seems.
Yeah, yeah. It seems like you're getting a lot more guys that are like super talented. You're starting to get again a lot more momentum. Somebody had asked me previously if you if I thought that the BKFC was kind of like a little more geared or catered towards the older fighters like myself versus the young up and coming guys. And I think because of the momentum that the BKFC is gaining in popularity and how frequently they're doing shows, they're starting to see some of these younger guys actually shift over to I want to have a career in the BKFC. Whereas before I think it was so new that the only people that were kind of willing to do it were guys that already had the experience in other places, and they're like, hell yeah, I want to try this out. Let's go for it. So with that happening, I think you're going to see an even bigger influx of more talented heavyweights coming in.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very interesting time for sure because, yeah, I feel like there's something about that point that you mentioned there, almost like the people they were bringing in before, it was like a cachet related, like name value kind of thing. Whereas it's creating this surge now where people are like, you know what, I want to really ply my trade with this. I want to get in there and make bare knuckle my lane. And I guess a guy like Leonardo Perdomo kind of stands out to me in that sense. Just a guy who's pretty singularly pursued gloved or bare knuckle boxing, rather large in part. Like it seems like he's really kind of definitively made that his lane without having that prior like MMA, like former UFC vet kind of base, as it were.
Absolutely. And because of that, like you're starting to see with the BKFC kind of have their own homegrown superstars and they're not having to worry about, like drawing the attention of other former or potentially retired guys from different promotions who've already staked that claim for themselves. And I think it's really cool to see the company doing what they're doing with building their own guys, really taking care of the fighters and helping them learn to promote themselves because it's an aspect of the business side of things that so few people are familiar with.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I guess something that I kind of find interesting too is it just seems like there's a certain set of opportunities for heavyweight MMA fighters in the global, I guess, ecosystem right now. Because I feel like as much as a lot of people talk about like UFC not prioritizing the heavyweight ranks quite as much nowadays, it seems like it almost creates opportunities for fighters to field offers from other promotions. Like it even seems like your former opponent, Jailton Almeida, is now kind of like squaring away maybe like a ACA opportunity potentially. Like it seems like he's kind of fielding some offers there. So kind of like a microcosm of just what heavyweight MMA fighters have available globally,
Yeah,
it seems. Yeah.
I saw that. I saw that he got released, and I was really surprised by that because he's been on such a strong tear. It really seems like UFC is. I really just I don't. It has me kind of going. I have no idea what you're doing. Removing some of these awesome, high quality, heavyweights off of your roster. But at 100%, I think having an MMA background like that, giving people the opportunity to pursue things beyond the UFC, when they're done with that, it's definitely an attractive thing for a lot of MMA guys, especially because of the specific rule set of bare knuckle boxing with the clinch fighting, with the dirty boxing being involved. Whereas that gives a lot of MMA guys a very big advantage because they're so familiar versus somebody coming with a pure boxing background. It's an adjustment because usually when you clinch in a traditional boxing match, you clinch more defensively or positionally or trying to pull yourself out of a corner or something, and you're not actively working in that clinch. You're not in the sense of like trying to implement an offense and land strikes so much as you are working in different ways and trying to position yourself differently or kind of catch your breath and smaller punches and stuff. Whereas the MMA guy is like, oh, I could do so much work from in here. So I think that's a big attraction and a significant advantage for an MMA guy making the transition that also has good boxing.
And this isn't like directly the same thing, but kind of just reminded me of it. Because I was talking to Brian Battle kind of recently, and we were talking about that BMF title fight with Charles Oliveira and Max Holloway. And it's one of those things where it's like it was a fine fight in like a vacuum, like in and of itself. But I guess just
Right.
like that specific context of like, oh, it's a BMF title fight. I think some people have a
Yeah.
certain idea of what that is. And yeah, I don't know, kind of an interesting time, more the entertainment era, as some people are calling it, I guess.
I am by no means taking anything away from Charles Oliveira being such a dominant force, and I love jujitsu. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
literally have it tattooed on my arm.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
still practice. I'm a black belt, and I teach classes here, and I love the art. But again, going back to that entertainment value side of things, when you think of a BMF, baddest MF on the planet, you don't think of somebody smothering somebody for almost 25 minutes straight. You think of guys going toe to toe, smashing each other. If they are gonna like shoot for the takedown and go turn it into a ground fight, you expect more action, more exchanges in the jujitsu side of thing, maybe some more ground and pound. I think that would have left a better taste in people's mouths if you saw a little more of the striking element involved, even with the ground game. But because of it being the BMF belt. I think a lot of people were really disappointed with that. I think if it were just a regular title fight, regular title. I think if it were, just a title fight or just a main event, nobody would have any disappointment about that whatsoever. They'd be like, "That was awesome. That was
Mhm.
great." But it's like it's going to a restaurant and asking for filet mignon, and you come back with a ham steak.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. You just gotta, I guess, acknowledge it specifically for what it is. And I'm in the same camp too. I have a very healthy appreciation for the submission grappling arts and etc. But something that kind of ties into, I guess, UFC and BKFC as well. Like you fighting a former BKFC heavyweight champion in the UFC cage when you tested skills with Chase Sherman, and he's going to be fighting a returning Anthony Smith in that game bred bare knuckle MMA tournament. Did you have any thoughts on that particular matchup?
I think that's going to be a great matchup. I'm interested to see. Are they going? That is going to be a heavyweight, right?
Yeah, it is. Smith is coming back at heavyweight for that one. Yeah.
Yeah. That's going to be really interesting to see because obviously, I think Anthony Smith was an incredible fighter, super talented, very well rounded. So to see him step up to the heavyweight division and see how he handles that difference in size and weight, he is by no means a small guy to begin with. The fact that he was even cutting down to 205 was impressive. I got the opportunity to meet him when I fought in Singapore, and you know, I think that's going to be very much in Anthony's favor. But then again, also not only is he going up to heavyweight, but he's also having the new element of taking the gloves off, where that changes things a little bit. Some people don't always respond well to that, but I would still be putting my money on Anthony Smith for that one. No slack or smoke towards Chase Sherman. I just think Anthony's just that good of a fighter.
Is it just like what you think his ability to adapt to that bare knuckle specific skill set would be, or just a general skill set matchup assessment overall? I guess just because like it seems like Anthony Smith has a certain level of ability to like finish off his back, finish with submissions in general, and it seems like there's that empirical evidence piece that in bare knuckle MMA there's a lot more like fight finishing submission sequences. Like, is it something of that persuasion per se,
Yeah,
or more just yeah?
I think no, I think more because like when you get hit with a bare knuckle versus a gloved hand, that's a different feeling. It's a different sensation. But with somebody like Anthony who has the level of experience that he has, it's not he's not just gonna all of a sudden crumble up and start to turn tail just because he got tagged a little bit different or something hurt a little bit more than what he's experienced in the past versus a glove. And with him having such a strong jujitsu game, taking the gloves off is a huge advantage for him. Now he can grip everything better. He can sneak his hands into tighter situations for different kinds of submissions, such as rear nakeds and whatnot. I think, yeah, and I still think that this is going to be heavily in Anthony's advantage.
Yeah, it's going to be a really interesting scene to follow. And it's just cool to see so many different forms of, bare knuckle out there. Cause I know some people weren't sure if the promotion would come back and stuff like that. So cool to see it's back out there. And just, yeah, given bare knuckle fans of different persuasions, whether it's boxing or MMA, lots of cool stuff to watch.
100%. Yeah, I was actually really nervous when I saw that Gamebred had the big layoff that they did, and I was like, oh no, there's something gone. We got to bring that back. It's kind of a staple in the bare knuckle world. So I'm really happy to see that they're coming back with that show, and then also having somebody like Anthony Smith versus Chase Sherman headlining that card.
Yeah, a lot of intriguing fights and whatnot. And your fight coming up, certainly one of the more intriguing bare knuckle fights, regardless of if it's boxing or fighting or MMA or whatever tag you want to have at the end of it. It's very exciting gloveless combat all the same. And I do appreciate you making time to come on Bare Knuckle Bowker to talk ahead of this fight, Parker. But I also want to be mindful of your schedule as well, man, and see if maybe you had a final parting thought you might want to add as we're kind of wrapping up, man.
No, I always appreciate you guys having your time for me, and you always ask great questions. We have good conversations. So first of all, thank you to you. Thank you to all my fans and everybody that supports me, my friends, my family, my sponsors. Shout out to my newest sponsor, Ruthless Syndicate. Really appreciate you guys backing me up and giving me the support that I need to help carry me through with getting ready for this fight on the 28th. And if you're in the New England area, anywhere near Connecticut, and you're looking for something to do on Saturday, the 28th, make sure you don't miss it. Get some tickets, get down there. Don't miss the action because it's going to be explosive.
Yeah, your residency at Mohegan Sun has really spoken to that so far. So yeah, again, thanks for coming on ahead of this Haze Wilson fight, man. Great ability to adapt from the opponent's switch as well. And yeah, looking forward to checking out the fight when it goes down. But until then, man, you have a good rest of your day. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. You too, man. Take care.